Borakim Habayim. Welcome with the blessings of God to this unique event. I'm Dr. David Kalin, and I'm a board member from Faith, and I was acknowledged in this book as having brought focus on the global morality issues integral to light, courage, and hope. We're going to start with a musical prayer, a spiritual inspiration inspired by the words of Elie Wiesel. It's called Tikkun Olam. It means to heal the world. Thank Ambassador Michael Oren and Minister Noam Katz for allowing us to host this event today, and appreciate that U.S. Ambassador J. Christian Kennedy is being represented by the Assistant Greg Mattson. And we want to welcome Annette Lantos on her behalf and on the behalf of her husband Tom Lantos of blessed memory, and the foundation, the Lantos Foundation, as well as welcoming all of the ambassadors and or their representatives from the 10 countries to whom we intend to pay tribute this evening. Can you hear me? I don't get any feedback from the audience. We also say hello to Cantor William Hauben, members of the Faith Board, wives, friends, and other distinguished guests. We make the world better one encounter at a time. And I humbly stand before all of you and thank you for all your participation and attendance. And as we share the collection of evidence contributed by you and endorsed by you, by honoring you tonight. Cantor William Hauben has often been acknowledged for his musical ability, admired for his captivating spirit and enthusiasm for life, and respected for sharing his story with the world. Light, courage, and hope is a continuation of this devotion to share a unique and magnificent vision with others. To have withstood all the worst that the world had to offer, and yet inspired to produce a lasting legacy memorializing goodness and decency as a torch to the next generation, encouraging others to put one's own life at risk to save the life of another, is a magnificent vision. About 2 years ago, inspired by the memory of my own cantor when I was a child, in the Tampa Bay area, I searched for one and to share with my 4-year-old son, who was quite musical. And I found Cantor Hauben. He said he was 47 and a half years old, but he didn't really look that way, but I wasn't sure. In any event, shortly thereafter, our family was adopted by him as a cousin to replenish a family expunged in the Holocaust. Together we shared moments of study, Shabbos dinners, music, and moments of historical truth. Having been exposed to Cantor Hauben's first book, From the Flames, Miracles and Wonders of Survival, he then revealed to me his idea for book number 2, Light, Courage, and Hope. Thereafter, I introduced Bill Sefekar, who had worked with me previously directing a community television program entitled B'nai B'rith Presents Jewish Life in Tampa Bay, which had been on for 10 or 15 years. And he had recently retired from the county planning department in Hillsborough in Florida. And then for the next 2 years, Bill has worked feverishly as the executive director of the William Hauben Heritage Foundation, and with the Cantor on the development of Light, Courage, and Hope. In the meantime, Rick Myers, Dr. Robert Norman, Sheldon Hauben, son of the Cantor, Carol Johnston, the Cantor, and myself formulated Faith, the foundation acknowledging individuals, treating humanity. As the book developed substance, the Board of Faith had the realization that this was not just a book. This was an event, a compass guiding us in the development of institutional and national morality. In a world arena where efforts by individuals and even individual countries cannot stem the tide of evil, we need a unified coalition. And by shining light on the actions elucidated in Light, Courage, and Hope, we hope to participate in building a base for this coalition. The Cantor always says, nothing is free. Not in a concentration camp, and not in life itself. So I say to you who come here and to our reception. The time is now. The place is here. We of faith challenge the signatories memorialized herewith, that is, people who are part of this book, to consider becoming a steering committee working with the U.S. Holocaust Center to create an event which not only is a tribute to you, but to the others not mentioned in this book, as a final salute to the living witnesses. Much of what we've heard about the Holocaust focuses on darkness. Cantor William Hauben, a living witness, tells a story of light, courage, and hope, which we hope is a message to the next generation as we cope with the global problems of our future. And now I introduce William Sefekar, the Executive Director of Faith.
Thank you, Dr. Dave Kalin. This is a life dream for Cantor Hauben, only a 2-year dream for me. I first met Cantor Hauben on January 2nd, 2008, just over 2 years ago. I knocked on the door, he opens it, and I said, "I'm Bill Sefekar. Dr. David Kalin told me to come over to assist you." He looked at me and looked upward and uttered, "You are an angel." Well, I don't know much from angels, but it was something to shoot for. But over the past 2 years, I've been very fortunate to meet a number of angels. Some of them are here in this room. And there are some that are here that we can't see. What has happened during the past 2 years is that one man's life dream came to fruition and another was tested. I've spent only 2 short years. So many of you have given a lifetime. I am honored to be in your presence. This is one of the main reasons why we're here, to honor such people. Cantor, you started this project over 7 years ago. You trudged to Washington several times to keep your hopes alive. It's amazing that at 82 years of age, and as David said, 47 and a half years on the Cantor's calendar, and you had the will and the stamina to pursue this. It is unfortunate that ambassadors have short tours of duty. These are wonderful men and women who befriended you and who came to know you personally. Ambassador Elena Papadirova, Bulgaria, had a special state dinner, which you were honored. And Dr. Fatos Tarifa of Albania. There was Ambassador Federspiel of Denmark. Ambassador Jan Eliasson of Sweden. There was Ambassador Volbrecht of Norway, who's on the Hague Court High Commissioner, and Ambassador Vallera of Finland. But even as the term of office is brief, it may be noteworthy. Probably if these ambassadors were still here, I wouldn't have had a job, but I had to follow through on the new special people that we came to know and wrote about in Life, Courage, and Hope. But even as a term of office may be brief, it is very noteworthy. Representing your people and bringing a better understanding of your country and your culture and ours, it is a most noble assignment. Heroes, well, how do we define heroes? As brave, champion, stars, even supermen and superwomen. Yet the men and women we wrote about, talked about, were everyday mortals that made a decision that would alter their own destiny and the thousands of lives that they saved. You're also affecting lives, maybe not as dramatically, but it transcends how we can make a difference. This is what it's all about, making a difference. Elie Wiesel spoke at the White House 45 years after Franklin Delano Roosevelt had died. And he said that it's indifference that's our biggest enemy. You all have special times when we were thrust in harsh conditions and danger and came out knowing that we did the right thing. I was pushed into my crossroads by a chance in career, and although it was not such a harrowing experience, it still made me think I was doing the right thing. It's not easy, and you know you had to make a difference. I've come to cherish the friendships that I have found as Cantor Hauben. And I thought about how nice it would be in the diplomatic corps to foreign service. But alas, too short, because all the pictures we took with my very honored guests, and Ambassador Kennedy too. I guess there must be some kind of height requirement, but anyway, I'll leave the special dignitaries to you all, and you're very deserving for the awards that we have. Thank you.
I don't know whether I'm here or I'm not here. I'm supposed to be dead 60 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors and head of state, I am standing before you, humbled by this occasion. 65 years ago, I was surely dead. 6 times I was doomed to death. Yet, I did not perish. I survived. God is in heaven. The miracle of my survival remains a tribute to God, the strength of human spirit, and the kindness of a few brave people. The reason of my survival may well have been to ensure the story of the Holocaust by remembering and shared today for many, many generations to come. Now, you know, it's customary in Jewish tradition to recite a prayer of thanksgiving. And I would say this in English, translated from the Hebrew scripture. Blessed art thou, our King of the universe, who preserved me and enabled me to speak to you about my survival. I would also conclude with my sincere thanks to every individual and many, many people who made this book a reality. And let's just say amen. I will conclude later on to do the priestly benediction, what we do traditionally, when concluding a situation of that level, of this attitude. Now, Dr. Norman is one of the most important founders of our organization.
Greetings. It's great to get a chance to meet many of you before this little presentation. And I'll lift it up. Okay. In the Tikkun Olam, which was sung earlier beautifully by our friend Russell Bain, said the opposite of love is not hate but indifference. Our foe is not hate but standing still. And the people here in this room are just emblematic of the great things that can be done if you're out in the world and doing things and helping and sharing the love and basically the right way of looking at life. And we're very, very appreciative for you who have done it in the countries that you've come from. Noam Katz, the Minister of Public Diplomacy, I had a chance to talk to this young man earlier, and he said he's new in Washington, fairly new in Washington, and was in Nigeria and Ghana before, and a career diplomat, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are honored to have him here, and also we have a gift for you, and it is a tie with a chai symbol, and I want to present this to you when you come up. We have to think about hope, survival, life, l'chaim, and even though we've been through a history of many tragic events over time, we always survive. As many of the rabbis say, it's one of the proofs that God exists and that we exist, we continue to exist. When many people in history have said we should have never existed this long, we continue to exist and flourish and serve. So great to be here, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Katz.
Dear friends, it's an honor to welcome you to the Embassy of Israel, and I also bring the best wishes of Ambassador Oren, who is unfortunately out of the country and unable to join us this evening. It is a privilege that the Cantor Hauben and his foundation choose our embassy to launch the book, Light, Courage, and Hope. I commend Cantor Hauben and his executive research assistant, Bill Sefekar, for sharing these stories of heroism with the world. I actually understand the importance of acknowledging the bravery depicted in the book. When I was ambassador to Nigeria, I attended an event commemorating heroes of the Holocaust, similar to what we are doing this evening. After the event, my daughter, who was 8 years old then, turned to me and said, "Had I been a German, I do not think that I would have had the courage to save a Jewish life." Despite her young age, she was able to grasp something that many don't fully appreciate. We all assume that the level of bravery exhibited by many featured in this book is expected, assumed. All of us like to believe that in such situation that we would have been one of those heroes. But it's neither simple nor automatic. The Nazi regime was based on terror and fear, both of which have been proven to be very effective. To show that level of bravery in the face of such regime is greater even to the bravery of a soldier at war. It is extraordinary because it is based on a great compassion and moral conviction to uphold humanity at all costs. Those that did so, and there were many, deserve the highest level of honor. I myself come from a family of Holocaust survivors. My mother was born in Germany, but was able to live prior to the Holocaust. The rest of her family was not as fortunate. Many of them, along with my father's family, perished in the concentration camps. I wish that there were more people doing what your diplomats and citizens did during the Holocaust. Perhaps the life of more of my family and countless others would have been saved. Through you, I would like to acknowledge your government for their action. These individuals have brought great honor to your countries. As a descendant of survivors, as a Jew, but especially as a human, I thank them. I hope that this bravery is never forgotten. Thank you very much. It will be done later. I would like to thank, we have got here a gift. This is a registration of members of families of people that perished during the Holocaust but were registered in the Book of Gold. It's an Israeli book of the Jewish Fund. And this is in memory of these people that were perished and sorry? They don't have, these people were perished during the Holocaust. There are no tombs and no stones. And this is, this registration saved for their memory, as well as it serves to promote education and knowledge in Israel. So I thank you very much. I feel highly honored of having a copy of this memorial. Thank you.
And lead a trip for the Jewish National Fund, and was in Prague 4 days before that, and visited Theresienstadt, also known as Terezin. It was the first time I'd ever been to one of the camps, and it was very, very moving and very powerful. And we have to continue with the work we do to help light the world and do the things that they aren't able to do. And one of the people I had a nice time talking with a little bit before we started here was Greg Mattson, Special Advisor for Holocaust Issues. And Greg states he's retired, but he's not really retired. He's continuing to work, and it works in a task force with 27 countries, international countries, and task force on Holocaust issues. And it's a pleasure to introduce him.
Cantor Hauben, Mrs. Lantos, Excellencies. On behalf of my office, the Office of Holocaust Issues at the Department of State, and Christian Kennedy, who's our special envoy, who is not in the country at the moment, I'm very honored to be here this evening and also to be asked to say a few words about this occasion, and especially to congratulate Cantor Hauben on the launching of his latest work. In the last 6 years since I retired, I've been working as a special advisor in the European Bureau with a specific mandate, which I'll get to in just a moment. And it relates very closely, I think, on one level to Cantor Hauben's work. I guess it's appropriate that I was working mainly with European countries, because I spent the bulk of my Foreign Service career in Europe, almost 20 years at our embassies in various countries in Europe, and had the good fortune to be the senior professional diplomat in 4 of them. But this Holocaust Education Task Force, and now in a way I'm leaning on an open door or speaking to the choir, because before us we have so many ambassadors who are actually from countries which are represented on the task force, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But it's been a great pleasure and honor for me to have been working with Holocaust experts, over 150 of them from 27 countries. These are academics and researchers and educators and museum curators and museum directors, all of whom are endeavoring to keep the memory of the Holocaust alive, not only because the victims deserve that, but also as a teaching tool for contemporary society, and especially for the youth. The International Task Force is, as I say, composed of 27 countries. 6 of the 10 countries which are represented here tonight are full members. Others are in various stages of application. And this all began just about 10 years ago. In fact, on the 27th of January in Stockholm, there will be a commemoration of the 10th anniversary of the launching by Sweden, in close collaboration with the United States and the United Kingdom, of the Task Force for International Cooperation on Holocaust Education, Remembrance, and Research. As I mentioned, I've been doing this work for several years on a part-time basis. My pension doesn't allow me to work more at it than I am, although I would like to. But we've seen many countries join the task force just in the period that I've been there, including Denmark, including Norway, which is the current chair, including Finland. Sweden, as I mentioned, is actually the inspiration for the task force, and I think the Norwegian foreign minister and the Swedish foreign minister will be having a major event in Stockholm on the 26th, the evening of the 26th, to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the task force. Norway is the current chair. Israel will be the incoming chair of the task force. It's a vibrant organization, the purpose of which is to as I said, to use the experience of the Holocaust as a teaching tool to combat the resurgent anti-Semitism, which unfortunately we see quite often in Europe. And we have no reminder other than something that occurred on Crete twice this month, which is namely the firebombing of a synagogue, the only synagogue on Crete, an historic edifice in the town of Hania. And on the 5th of January, it was firebombed unsuccessfully, and it was firebombed again just last Saturday. So this is an example, just one example, of the dangers of allowing the Holocaust to fade entirely into memory. So I think we need to keep our attention squarely focused on that. Now, the work of faith is front and center, I think, of a multifaceted approach to recognizing the heroes of the Holocaust and remembering its victims. And I would like to just conclude by thanking the Israeli Embassy for providing such an appropriate venue for this occasion, and again to wish Cantor, Hauben, and Faith every success with this book. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Sheldon Hauben. I am the proud son of William Hauben, and my father and I are deeply honored that all of you are here tonight to share this special occasion. Let me welcome the ambassadors and embassy dignitaries, Mrs. Lantos, her beautiful daughter Katrina, honored guests, the Faith Board and family, and with me up here, who's Rick up here with me, is Rick Myers, the Chief Financial Officer of the Faith Board. And we have members of the Faith Board family here who I would never forget, because without them, none of this would happen. I just want to take a few brief moments to acknowledge more specifically some of the people here tonight, and then I'll turn it over to Rick, who is so intimately involved with the Faith Board. First, to the ambassadors and the embassy dignitaries and all of those who contributed to the book. What I used to do when I started reading it is I would close my eyes and I would try to imagine the time that was written about and the incredible bravery of the people from these various countries and what it is that they did for other human beings, from government officials and diplomats to ordinary rank-and-file citizens. May they all be a light forever. I also want to thank Congressman Tom Lantos for writing a beautiful preface for Light, Courage, and Hope. He captured the essence of what the book and what the Faith Board is all about. We are honored to have you here, Mrs. Lantos, and Katrina too. And I will have more to say about them a little later on, some personal stories that I think you'll find to be of interest. Finally, I want to thank those from the Faith Board who are here tonight. And I want to start with the gentleman standing right next to me. I call him the foundation of the foundation, because when all this started a few years ago, and my father had this vision, they wanted to honor the heroes that we speak about tonight. Rick believed in that vision, encouraged my father, and has been an incredible support throughout the years. Rick's a quiet man, but with a heart that screams of great things. And I thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you, Sheldon.
Very good. Dr. David Kalin and his beautiful wife are here with us tonight also. Passion, creativity, the soul of faith. Your energy has no bounds, and without it, we wouldn't be here tonight. Thank you for making tonight happen as well, and for being here with us. Dr. Rob Norman, our expert, a prolific author in your own right, Your keen insight was absolutely instrumental in the production of this book. You'd done it many times before, and we were somewhat of an inexperienced group. We all thank you from the bottom of our heart. Without you, this wouldn't have happened either. Bill, I call you our steward. You are the steward of faith and the guardian of light, courage, and hope. From content to cover, you've been involved every step of the way. It's a blessing that you were introduced to my father those 2 years ago. Thank you for making tonight a reality, and Bill was also instrumental in putting together this reception. Thank you very much, Bill. And last but certainly not least, if you will indulge me for one moment, I would like to talk to my father. Dad, drive, dedication, determination. You personify the relentless pursuit of purpose. And all of this was for one very simple reason. You thought it was the right thing to do. You are my moral compass. I am incredibly proud of you tonight, and I'm honored to be your son. Thank you all very much.
Would Bill Sefekar please join me up here on the podium? This is a recognition event. Bill, your dedication and devotion was enormous when it came to the book. Thank you so much for your hard work. We are delighted to bestow you with an Israeli sterling silver medal coin and chain in your appreciation of your dedication. I would like to propose a toast. L'chaim.
Well, thank you. Well, these are the people who I spent 2 years with, and we formed quite a bond of devotion and dedication. And I also formed a bond with you special diplomats, ambassadors, consulars. It is special for me to be here and to be part of this program. We're here at the Embassy of Israel, and it is fitting. The Embassy of Israel, a country that has tried so hard to be a beacon of life, a beacon of light for the rest of the world, now fitting to be here with other countries who have stood up against oppression and prevented a curse on all mankind. And 60 years later, we stand at a crossroads or a defining moment of humanity to see that lessons learned, that future heroes will not have to be dealing with wars and man-made catastrophes, but setting a course for cooperation instead of denying, progress instead of destruction, and harmony instead of hostility. We are all heroes, heroes to our families, to our co-workers, to the people written about in the book who have lifted themselves above everyday common barriers to be a place where brave and few have sacrificed so that others survive. There are heroes in everyday life, everyday walks of life: policemen, doctors, firefighters, social workers, priests, ministers, rabbis. But many of these people put themselves in harm's way that we are talking about are everyday people in these countries that have played a major part in our book and a tribute for tonight. We're talking about the everyday people in these countries, Albania and Norway, who protected Jews under the threat of brutalized force. In China, Bulgaria, Denmark, the people who refused to give up their Jewish brethren. The diplomats of Portugal, Sweden, China provided thousands of life-saving pieces of paper to outstretched hands with no time to spare, on which were visas used to escape certain death. The resistance of Finland to the Germans and the Russians. We know the role of the United States in its sacrifice and efforts to stop the onslaught and for the home that Palestine and then the State of Israel offered, a haven for the displaced persons of the aftermath. Our host, the State of Israel, is only a dream for thousands of homeless. Yes, homeless in need of a place where the slaughters of millions of their families and friends would not be so blatant. We are here to honor the 10 countries and have a tribute for them in our small way, worthy of their brave citizens. I'd like Dr. Norman to join me as we present plaques. Over the course of the past 2 years, I have made many friends, and I will cherish them. And Ambassador Alexander Salabanda could not be here. I talked to him 2 days ago before he was called back for a big business meeting in Albania. He is one of the best friends of Israel. I met him. I was asked to attend a celebration of their National Day of Celebration in Washington during Thanksgiving. And I met him, and he personally embraced me and thanked me and the work of Cantor Hauben, and that Albania is a friend and dear to the cause. So we were hoping that Jense Salabanda, the son of Alexander Salabanda, could be here. We had hoped they had called in for a reservation. We will present this plaque as we will for those other ambassadors, hopefully right now, but just as it says in the special tribute to Albania and its brave citizens, presented to our Ambassador Alexander Salabanda for heroic efforts during the Holocaust, featured in Light, Courage, and Hope, presented by Faith Foundation, acknowledging individuals, treating humanity, January 21st, 2010, Faith founder Cantor, William Hauben, Embassy of Israel, Washington, D.C. The Ambassador Lechkar Petkov of Bulgaria graced our book with a very fine letter of support that said that Light, Courage, and Hope teaches lessons to our children of bravery and courage, and the lesson to be presented to future generations, and we hope the book would reach a wide range of audiences. In place of, we have the Charge d'Affaires, Tihomir Stoytchev. We are honored to have you join us here, you and your brave citizens and countrymen.
Thank you very much. If you allow me to say a few words. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. We are modest representatives of our people and our countries here, and this is a recognition for what my people did more than 50 years ago. A national movement was created in the country by some brave members of the then parliament, and the leadership of the Christian Orthodox Church joined them, and then the whole population stood against the decision to send Bulgarian Jews to the Nazis camps. The trains were already to leave, but thanks to the efforts of those brave people, they never left. And this evening is dedicated to those, to their efforts, to their courage, which we have to remember. And I believe this book is the right recognition for all those efforts. And new generations have to remember and never forget in order such of events never to happen and repeat again. Thank you very much.
The next country, China. I've had the privilege of meeting with Consular Liao, who has become a dear friend. And when I was in China this summer, he met me at the hotel where I was staying with my fiance and offered some words of encouragement and had a chance to meet a minister of information about the book. And they provided us with amazing books that have been published in China, Jews in China book, Once Upon a Time in Shanghai, about a survivor. So the Chinese people have been very much a part of the Office of Information to show how Jews have been a part of the resurgence and the way that they had contributed to save Jews during the Holocaust. And I would like to present the award, a plaque for China, and in lieu of Ambassador Joao Wenchong, Consular, please let me provide you with this. Special plaque to you for all that you've done in your country.
And this is for my ambassador, and he's trying to make to the meeting, but so far he has not arrived yet. And this event reminds me of the wisdom of Confucius, our ancient sage, who said that by learning things of the past, remembering things of the past, people understand better things of the present. And we much appreciate what Cantor has done, telling his own story and telling the story of hope and courage and faith. And a personal note, I much appreciate efforts by Bill, and I enjoyed working with Bill, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Our next country, Denmark, we have an interesting story. Both Ambassador Peterson and the deputy to the mission were out of town. And I was expecting possibly Ambassador Richard Swett, former ambassador to Denmark, but we have an equally wonderful, nice replacement. The wife of the former ambassador from Denmark, Miss Katrina Lantos, Swett, if you would please join us here and accept the award plaque.
Well, I am delighted to be an honorary Dane this evening and accepting this award on behalf of the country of Denmark. My husband and I and our 7 children had the great privilege of spending 3 years there. And when we first heard that we were posted to Denmark, I felt an enormous swelling of gratitude because as the daughter of Holocaust survivors, I knew well the story of Denmark's heroic rescue of its Jewish population. And it really is a remarkable story because it swelled up from the people themselves. This was a grassroots movement on the part of a nation full of decent people who did not see their Jewish friends and neighbors as Jewish friends and neighbors and citizens, but simply as their fellow Danes. And they were not prepared to have their friends and their fellow citizens and their fellow Danes isolated, persecuted, deported, and killed. And so, one by one, in small groups, sailors, fishermen, doctors, nurses, they hid them, they rescued them, they ferried them across the water to neutral Sweden. And then, quite remarkably, this is the piece of the story that very few people know. They tended their businesses, their homes, their gardens. They fed their pets. They took upon them the responsibility not only of rescuing their lives, but of preserving the life that they had experienced in Denmark. And so when those same friends and neighbors and fellow citizens returned many years later, they found that they could walk back into their homes, pick up their lives in their shops and their stores. And it is really a remarkable story of decency, a miraculous story of decency. And we came to know and love that decency in this day and age as well in Denmark. And so it is really with great pleasure that I have the special opportunity of accepting this award on behalf of Ambassador Friis Arne Petersen. And I'll make sure it gets to him. Thank you so much.
I've had the distinct pleasure of meeting Ambassador Lintu at his home, and I mean home, at the embassy. And they're very gracious, he and his staff. Misali Kuranen had been one of the first people that I had worked with, and the story behind how the Finnish people had saved the Jews in their country and the efforts that they were underway. At this time, I would like to present Ambassador Lintu with a special tribute.
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for the honor of receiving this plaque and all that it represents. I would also like to congratulate the authors of the book that we have seen tonight, the authors Cantor Hauben and Sefekar. I know that it has been a great amount of work, but it is an important book describing the difficult times in all our countries' histories, including ours. In the 40s, in the years of the Second World War, the history of our countries is different. Ours certainly is different to many of the countries that are represented here during those years, because we were on the other side. We were not one of the Allied countries. As a matter of fact, we were against, technically, because we were waging our own war of survival against Soviet Union. And that made us the co-belligerents of the German Reich. But I would like to, and as the book also points out, I would like to emphasize the very important feature. During that time, my country, my government never abandoned their basic values. My country has always promoted, protected human rights and combated against discrimination of all kind. And that was the case also during those difficult war years. There were no special laws in Finland, and as in Denmark and many other countries, the Jewish people were part of the Finnish people, and that was it. So that made us one of the safe countries for our population in that regard. And I take this award very much as a commemoration and as a recognition of that policy. So I thank you very much for that.
Our next country is a special place, as I happened to meet His Excellency Liao de Vallera. It's my first trip to Washington in doing the work for the book. And the ambassador of Portugal was very gracious and accompanied me to go through the material. There's a special list of supplies that we talked about. Dr. Norman was in Theresienstadt, and supplies were sent through Portugal to the inmates at the camps there. And there was a seal, and there were the names of the people that received this lifeline support. So developed a good bond with Ambassador de Vallera, and I'd like for him to join us, and I presented plaque award a tribute to him and his brave country. Let's see, it's Portugal and its brave citizens presented. So much.
Thank you very much for this prize, which I accept with great honor. I would like to say that I feel very honored to be here tonight in this ceremony, together with my colleagues representing these righteous countries. There is one thing I would like to add. I noticed with particular attention what Minister Katz said about and his wish of this bravery not to be forgotten. And I would like to tell him that as far as Consul General Aristides Sousa Mendes, or Consul General to Bordeaux, in these dark and tragic times of Europe, I can assure you that his name will not be forgotten. Actually, there is a room in the Palácio das Necessidades, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who carries his name, and the most important diplomatic prize in Portugal is also named by him. So I can assure you that his courage and his deeds will never be forgotten in Portugal, and what they all meant. Thank you very much again for this prize.
Next country, Norway. I had the pleasure of working with the staff of His Excellency Ambassador Strommen, putting together some of the fine points of how the Norwegian people strived to save and work with other countries in Sweden and Denmark on a mission to save Jews. We are very, very blessed to have your support and the work of the Norwegian citizens, brave citizens. I'd like to have Ambassador Wegger, Christian Strommen, join us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to receive this reward on behalf of the Norwegian government. Could I only say one or two things, apart from acknowledging the great work that has been done with this book? We only managed to save half our Jews. So I think it's appropriate to say that about 50% was saved and made it over to Sweden. And in the name of those that helped them, and I know some of them actually still alive and helped them to get over, I humbly accept this reward. But we lost 50% that were perished in the concentration camps. And still now in 2010, our Jewish population has still not recovered to the level that it had before the war. I was chairman of the Norwegian, the Jewish Property Restitution Committee that was a part of this process, and I led our delegation to the Stockholm Conference in 1999 for the 10th year. And as I left there, we had a meeting in the synagogue in Oslo, and they said that, well, our mission is still, before we at least have restored our Jewish community to the strength that we had in the 1930s, there will be no rest for us. So thank you very much, and keep up your good work.
Last of the four we've been working in the group is Ambassador Jonas Hafstrom from Sweden. And I've received so much support from his staff, and Consul General Pontus Jarberg has been very, very supportive, and it's been a productive process working with you, and the major contribution has been made. We are here to honor you and your brave citizens. Ambassador Jonas Hafstrom.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this auspicious evening. And as Ambassador of Sweden, I'm honored to be here to pay tribute to Mr. Hauben and what you have done. This is a tribute to Sweden and its brave citizens, and the people who has been working for the right cause. And if I just mention Raoul Wallenberg and Folke Bernadotte, if they have not been what they did, the world would probably be in a different place. So thank you very much indeed.
Minister Noam Katz and Greg Mattson, if you would join us here, and we will provide a tribute for your two major countries in the work of the Holocaust and saving of many lives. Ambassador J. Christian Kennedy and Ambassador Michael Oren. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next part of the program, we have a special tribute. I'd like to bring up a special person to provide this major part of our evening. Sheldon Hauben, if you would join us and give this special part of our evening, special twist.
Before I begin, I also want to acknowledge Rick Meyer's wonderful wife, excuse me, who is with us tonight. You know how much you mean to the Faith Board and everything we're doing tonight, Lee. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Tonight, we've been talking about honoring heroes. And for me, this is a doubly special occasion because it's not every night that you get to honor a personal hero. And one of mine is here, and her name is Annette Lantos. It's kind of an interesting story how a lot of this came about this evening, and I'll just spend a few minutes sharing it with you. The year was 1982, and a dynamic congressman from California, who I think was pretty new to the Foreign Affairs Committee at the time, came to a synagogue in Tampa, Florida, named Road of Shalom, to talk about the Middle East. And after he was finished with his speech, a wonderful woman by the name of Bryna Hauben came up to him and said, "You know, my son has a passion for politics, and he's fascinated with Washington, and he would really like to be an intern in your office next summer." And so, Mom in heaven, thank you for tonight as well, because my dream came true. And I did intern on Capitol Hill for Tom and Annette Lantos. And that was the beginning of the story of the preface of the book. Tom and Annette were very special. We were just talking about this a little earlier tonight. As a 22-year-old, you're pretty much in awe when you walk into a congressman's office. And when I first said hello to the congressman, he said, it's Tom. And when I first said hello to Mrs. Lantos, she said, Sheldon, it's Annette. And I have to tell you, I'm still having a little trouble with that now 26 years later, but that's okay. Tom and Annette made sure that our experience on Capitol Hill, when there was a group of young people in the office, was unforgettable. And whether I was talking to Bianca Jagger about the Nicaraguan conflict, you remember, I was the one who carried the mortar shells to the next congressman's office. Or being at a reception for the ambassador to the Philippines, because for some strange reason, Tom and Annette couldn't go. So they made sure that I took a couple of the interns to this reception. You can only imagine the fascinating people we met that night. That was the way they were. They wanted our experience to be special, and as we all called it, they made Capitol Hill, indeed, Magic Mountain. 20 years later, through a friendship with a certain Elie Wiesel, my father gets invited to a commemoration ceremony, and this is 2003. And it was the commemoration of saving 60,000 Jews during the Holocaust from Bulgaria. Dad, if I remember correctly, you spoke for about a minute and a half. When he was done, and at the reception, a very distinguished gentleman came up to him and he said, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" My father said, "Sure. Your name's Cantor William Hauben?" And he said, "Yeah, it is." "William Hauben." "Yes, William Hauben." "Hauben. Hauben. Are you Sheldon Hauben's father?" And my father said, "Yes, I am." And he put his hand out to my father and he said, "Hi, I'm Tom Lantos. Your son interned in my office 20 years ago." And from that moment on, a new relationship began. And Congressman Lantos honored us with writing the preface to Light, Courage, and Hope. Tonight's a very special occasion. We honor Congressman Lantos, Mrs. Lantos, Katrina. Thank you again for being here. I could stand up here and talk about the awards and the honors. I think we all know what they are. I'm amazed at the variety of them, from the Medal of Honor from the Republic of Hungary to the Humane Society's highest honor, the Crutch Medal. And of course, President Bush giving your husband the highest civilian honor that can be bestowed, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's really what the Lantos family is all about, giving back. But instead of me standing up there and extolling your virtues, there's actually some other people who can do a much better job than I can. And if I can just take a moment, there's two short notes that I'd like to read. The first one: Dear Annette, on behalf of the staff of the USC Shoah Foundation Institute, we are so pleased to hear about this wonderful honor bestowed upon you and Tom of blessed memory. Your humanitarian and community work provide an example for us all. To see you both acknowledged with the first Moral Profiles and Courage Award gives us great joy. We will always be grateful to you and Tom for your contribution to the Shoah Foundation's Institute mission to overcome prejudice, intolerance, and bigotry. We will cherish our time with you both and deeply appreciate your participation in the film, The Last Days. It is our honor to preserve your testimonies as an enduring legacy that will educate and inspire people for generations to come. From all your friends at the Shoah Foundation Institute, and with deepest affection, congratulations. We are thinking of you and Tom on this special day. Stephen Smith, Executive Director. One more, very brief one. That Bill so smartly made just a little bit bigger. And this one says, Dear Annette, I join all your friends in honoring today you and the memory of Tom. What you both have done for victims of intolerance and discrimination will never be forgotten by those of us who work for human rights everywhere. Do you know how much I miss Tom? I think America and the world also miss him. With my deep affection, Elie Wiesel. Mrs. Lantos. Annette, that's still difficult for me after all these years. If you would please come forward.
The mantle of my husband's eloquence has fallen on my daughter's shoulder, so I'm going to ask my daughter to accept this in my name and in her father's name. Thank you very much.
And if I may take a moment to read it.
Yes.
The inaugural Moral Profiles and Courage Award to Congressman Tom Lantos of blessed memory and Annette Lantos for a lifetime of upholding the highest human values, kindness, courage, compassion, and integrity, in recognition for the many humanitarian events worldwide. Thank you for humbly. Thank you for us, for accepting our award. We are humbled by your presence.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful. I'm very moved being here. I have Katrina come and say a few words. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, as you can probably tell, that I was one of the luckiest children you could imagine to grow up with two such remarkable parents. I really grew up in the midst of heroes, and it had an enormous impact on my life. But as we in the Lantos family every day think about how much we lost when my father passed on, we are daily inspired by his life of enormous courage and vision and leadership. And I remember that shortly before he passed away, I had the privilege and the, in a way, sad duty of representing him at the United Nations, where he was asked to speak at their annual Holocaust Remembrance Day series as their keynote speaker. And on that occasion, I really spoke his words because he was no longer well enough to go himself. And at the end of my remarks, I shared a rabbinical story. You know, there are always wonderful stories about rabbis, and this was one of my father's favorite, and it seems perhaps apropos tonight. So I'd like to share that story with you. And the story is told of a rabbi who gathers his students in front of him and says, I have a very important question to ask, and I'd like to see who among you can answer it for me. He said, the question is, how can you tell the precise moment, the exact moment at which the night has turned to day? Well, one bright young scholar raised his hand and he said, Rabbi, is it that moment when a man walking through the woods at night can tell the difference between a wolf and a dog as an animal approaches him through the trees? The rabbi said, no, that is not the moment when the night has turned to day. So another student raised his hand and said, Rabbi, is it that moment when someone coming home late at night to his home in the village after having been perhaps out at with his friends can tell the difference between the roof of his house and that of his neighbors? The rabbi said, no, that is not the moment at which the night has turned to day. And as his students fell silent, the rabbi looked each one of them in the eye and said, you know the precise moment when the night has turned to day, when a man walking down the street sees a stranger approaching and recognizes him as his brother. And that is really what the Cantor, with his marvelous book, what the ambassadors here representing the brave citizens of their country more than half a century ago, are all about. Knowing that moment when the night has turned to day, when we see each of us at that moment when we are called upon to do so, when we see in the face of that approaching stranger, our brother, our sister, we recognize them as such, and we assume the responsibility that comes with that. We thank you, the Lantos family and the Lantos Foundation, for this beautiful award, and we congratulate you, Cantor, for your wonderful, wonderful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For almost 2 years, I was carrying this around. And this is the manuscript, the draft, and you've seen it, and I've shared it with a lot of you. And the book, The Saw the Light of Day. The Cantor and I, there are so many people to acknowledge that have contributed for the Cantor and I to arrive at this moment. The ambassadors of the 10 countries, Mrs. Annette Lantos, and her daughter Katrina Lantos, Swett, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, Ellie Wiesel, and Carolyn Johnson. Carolyn Johnson is the head of humanities and history studies at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida, where Dr. Wiesel is a visiting professor for 6 weeks there during the winter. Every year, and the Cantor has known Carolyn Johnson. She's a Pulitzer Prize nominee, and we have developed a love affair with Carolyn Johnson, a platonic love affair. She is so wonderful. She read the book 3-4 times, edited it, worked with us on it. She didn't edit the cover or the back, so if there's any errors on that, we take full responsibility for that. But the people that have been so involved, and Sheldon and Rick had mentioned, we had Steven Spielberg and the Shoah Foundation. Crystal Crawford, our editor, had worked with us incessantly on getting this right. We're still getting it right. We have Rick Myers, Dr. Dave Kalin, Dr. Robert Norman, patient and vigilant. And is Stu Jin, if you would stand up, Mr. Jin. This is the man, a round of applause. We worked too many hours the last 3 weeks that I don't even want to think about to get this book and the cover on it and bring it up to Washington and the plaques. And Mr. Jin and ADCO Publishing deserve a great credit for this, and we are very indebted. So with that, I have my family, my sister, Bonnie Sefekar Landau. Every time I come to Washington, 4 or 5 times the past few years, I stay at their house with Lee Landau, my brother-in-law, and it's like Faith Foundation, Anik North. And I'm there, and it helps get the job done, and they've been so helpful and hospitable. And Joseph Sefekar, my dad. My dad has been an inspiration and a guiding light, and helped me get to this point. Just for the record, my dad was administrator of the Hirshhorn Museum, the first one that helped build it. If you've been in Washington, that's one of the premier spots. And when he retired, he moved to Florida, and he did the same thing for the Ruth Eckerd Hall Performing Arts Center. And I enjoy this collaboration thing with the Cantor, and maybe with my dad. We're working on one. He thinks Conceived on the High Seas and Received in America might be the title that you might be seeing next year at a newsstand near you. And with that, Cantor Hauben, I want to give you a big hug. And we've rehearsed this how many times? Hundreds of times.
Producer of the act of accomplishment.
Thank you.
We ask you all you would just stand for a moment. This is a special prayer for the Jewish people called the priestly benediction. And actually it was adopted by Star Trek in a way. But it's a history of a special prayer to protect the Jewish people and, in essence, all mankind, which Cantor will recite in Hebrew and I'll recite it in English.
יברך אדוני וישמרך.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
May the Lord cast his spirit upon you and be gracious unto you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך shalom.
May the Lord cast his spirit to you and grant you and all of us peace. Amen.